I've waited all year to be able to exclaim that on an Easter morning again. Today is the pinnacle of the church year, and it brings pastors so much joy. And this is the moment we wait for all year long, to stand before you and exclaim, He is risen, and to hear your response of He is risen indeed. And so I'll admit that it's a little surreal to not be with you this morning, to be exclaiming that to my cats and dog in my home. And I will admit that I'm grieving a lot of what Easter won't bring with it this year. And I totally sympathized with a woman in her mid-80s this week who cried and said, Pastor, I am so depressed. This is the first Easter of my entire life that I won't be in church on Easter morning. I get it. And I'm a little depressed too. And I'm depressed as a mom. This is the first time in my children and grandchildren's entire lives that I won't be with them on Easter. So I don't want us to feel guilty for what we're grieving and how sad we feel over what Easter won't bring with it this year. But I would like to interject at this point about what Easter did bring with it this year. Because Easter this year has brought us an incredible gift. The incredible gift of seeing and experiencing Easter through a whole new lens and from a whole new perspective. Like that first Easter so long ago. That first Easter morning dawned bright and early to find the family, friends, and disciples of Jesus Christ huddled behind locked doors in homes they hadn't left in days, except for to get necessary items like food and water. They feared what lay beyond the door. They feared for their life if they went out. They spent their time behind the closed doors, huddled together, anxious, afraid, grieving of everything that was going on, not believing their life had been totally upended the way it had been, wondering how this would all end, when it would all end. Sound like anything you or I have experienced lately? Yeah. So we have the incredible opportunity to understand firsthand a little bit better what they experienced and just how good that good news was when Mary broke in and exclaimed, He is risen, because that changed everything. I'd like us to not only acknowledge what we've lost this year, today for each of us, that first Easter. Spending it this year. A suspicion. We will look back on this Easter as perhaps one of the most meaningful ones we've ever spent. In the midst of it, but I have a feeling we're going to look back and realize we've been given something very special this year. Easter for sure. And as I was contemplating my Easter sermon, I had a dream about how the Grinch stole Christmas, which was fairly odd, One, I don't usually remember my dreams, and two, I don't usually dream about green Dr. Seuss creatures and Christmas and early spring. And so it was even more bizarre on the second night in a row when I dreamed about how the Grinch stole Christmas. Third night in a row that I dreamed about the Grinch. And at this point, I will admit to you that sometimes it takes God a while to get my attention. And in this case, it took him 3 nights of the same dream. And that he might be wanting me to use something in all of this. And that day, as I went about my day, wondering subconsciously why I had dreamed about the Grinch 3 nights in a row, I realized that a line from the Grinch kept going through my head over and over and over again. Remember towards the end when he has stolen everything. He has taken anything that looks remotely like Christmas, all the decorations, all the food, all the packages, the ribbons, the bows, and he's waiting at the top of the mountain for them to wake up and realize that Christmas didn't come and to hear the sound of sorrow. But instead he hears the sound of gladness and joy and realizes that Christmas came anyway. And then he thought that line that kept going through my head. Maybe it doesn't come from a store. Maybe, just maybe, Christmas is a little bit more. And that's when I got it. That's when I got the huge parallel between how the Grinch stole Christmas and how the virus stole Easter. And so I set out to write an Easter version of the Grinch. And I struggled with it for weeks because, to be honest, rhyming's not my thing. And I finally finished it, and it was okay. Wasn't quite what I wanted, wasn't quite what I was going for, and I wasn't sure I'd end up using it this morning because of that. But then a friend posted something online that had me literally shouting for joy. Because a woman I've never met, who is now my new hero, her name is Christy Bother, had the same inspiration, and she rhymes much better than I do. And she wrote how the virus stole Easter. And I'd like to share her version with you this morning. 'Twas late in 19 when the virus began, bringing chaos and fear to all people in each land. People were sick, hospitals full, doctors overwhelmed, no one in school. As winter gave way to the promise of spring, the virus raged on, touching peasant and king. People hid in their homes from the enemy unseen. They YouTubed, Zoomed, social distanced, and cleaned. April approached and churches were closed. There won't be an Easter, the world supposed. There won't be church services and egg hunts are out. For no reason for new dresses when we can't go about. Holy Week started as bleak as the rest. The world was focused on masks and on tests. Easter can't happen this year, they proclaimed. Online and at home, it just won't be the same. Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, the days came and went. The virus pressed on, it just would not relent. The world woke Sunday and nothing had changed. The virus still menaced, the people still estranged. Pooh-pooh to the saints, the world was grumbling. They're finding out now that no Easter is coming. They're just waking up, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, and then all the saints will cry, boo-hoo. That noise, said the world, would be something to hear. So it paused, and the world put a hand to its ear. And it did hear a sound coming through all the skies. It started down low and started to rise. But the sound wasn't depressed. Why, this sound was triumphant. It couldn't be so. It grew with abundance. The world stared around, popping its eyes. Then it shook. What it saw was a shocking surprise. Each saint in each nation, the tall and the small, was celebrating Jesus in spite of it all. It hadn't stopped Easter from coming, it came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the world, with its life quite stuck in quarantine, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be? It came without bonnets, it came without bunnies, it came without egg hunts, cantatas, or money. Then the world thought of something it hadn't before. Maybe Easter, it thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Easter, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, the story's not done. What will you do? Will you share with that one or two or more people needing hope in the night? Will you share the source of your life and your light in this fight? The churches are empty, but so is the tomb. And Jesus is victor over death, doom, and gloom. And so this year at Easter, let this be our prayer. As the virus still rages all around everywhere, may the world see hope when it looks at God's people. May the world see the church as not a building or steeple. May the world find faith in Jesus' death and resurrection. May the world find joy in a time of dejection. Maybe 2020 will be known as the year of survival, but not only that, maybe of a revival. Thank you, Christy, because that's the message. That's it in a nutshell. Maybe Easter doesn't come from a store. Maybe, just maybe, Easter's a little bit more. And so, my friends, feel the feelings of grief on this Easter day. But look at the sunshine. Feel his light and his life. Exclaim, he is risen indeed. And pay attention. Because someday, somewhere, you're going to look back and you're going to see that this Easter was a gift indeed. Amen.